Yesterday we started Siman Lamed Zayin, Hilchos Tevilas Keilim. We learned the first sif that if you buy Keilim that have to do with the meal or with food, so you have to tevel them, and we learned that applies to matchas, which is metal, and also to schulchas, which is glass. I explained yesterday why do we mention these two things, metal and glass. So I explained yesterday because it's based on a pasuk by the Muhammad with Midian, that when they came back from the Muhammad, they were told that as a zor, as a kesef, as a nechoshes, it lists all different kind of metals. And that's midraisa. Midrabanan, they added also glass. Why did they add glass? Because it's similar to metal. In what ways is it similar to metal? That it's repairable just like metal. I mentioned yesterday, upstate there's a place called Corning, New York. In Corning, New York, there's a big glass company over there where they work with fire and glass. And they can shape the glass, and they can twist the glass, turn the glass. And if there's ever a problem with a glass that breaks with fire, they could repair it. So it's the same as metal, just like a metal keilim is repairable. So the Chachamim were moisef. And we learned that you have to make with a bracha. And incidentally, yesterday, Rabbi Weinstein asked the glass needs a bracha. So in Kitzur Shulchan Aruch it says that it needs a bracha. And that's, the minig is that way. But our opinion is that, right, the glass don't need a bracha. The reason why they write it does need a bracha is because it's only midrabanan. But the popular opinion is different because we find that on mitzvahs d'rabbanan we also make a bracha. For example, Chanukah and Purim, these are mitzvahs d'rabbanan and we make a bracha. So therefore they say that over here also you have to make a bracha. And we learned over here that you have to tevel it in a kosher mikveh. Now one thing that it doesn't talk about in Shulchan Aruch is how many times do you have to tevel a keilim? How many times So the halacha is that you just can dip in the keilim and that's it. You don't have to do more. Some want to say that just like we find by a woman when she tevels herself, so there's a minig that some women have that they tevel themselves 2 times. Why 2 times? Because before they tevel them, that you want to make the bracha when she's tahar. So when is she tahar? After teveling 1 time. So first she tevels 1 time without a bracha, she becomes tahar, and then she tevels a second time with a bracha, makes a bracha, and tevels herself a second time. That's so some want to compare. Huh? She's not mechuyev. So some say that why does she do a second time just to make sure? If you only do 1 time, maybe it wasn't 100% good. Maybe there was a hair that didn't get under the water. That's what some want to say. So they want to say that we find tefillah, we find the concept of tefillah 2 times. So they want to say that the keli also, you should tevel 2 times, even though the chayr is not the same. Because over here, we make the bracha before we tevel the keli, not after we tevel the keli. And over there, they make the bracha in between the 2 tefillas. But we have the concept of 2 times, so that's why someone say you should do 2 times. The popular minig is to tevel 3 times. The question is, from when it nemsel the inya for 3 times. So Pasha, some want to say, because 3 times is a chazakah. So be bold that you're not sure if maybe the first time or the second time, maybe something was not the way it should be. So if you do 3 times, it becomes a chazakah, and we don't clear any more shagas. And some bring a raya from Sukkim. What's the Psukim? The Psukim is, there's a pasuk in Yecheskel where the pasuk says, "V'tirei v'zorakte leicha mayim tahayim utahatem," and then it says, "Mikol chataseichem atayir eschem." So it says the word "tara" 3 times in the pasuk. Again, v'zorakte leicha mayim tahayim utahatem. And then Mikol Chataseichem Atayir Esem. So you see that Tara is connected with 3 times. There's also, they say in the Chumash over here, by the Avodah of Yom Kippur, steht Echad 3 times by the Avodah of Yom Kippur steht the word Tara. So that's in Pasha Achri Mois, where it talks about the Kohen Gadol. So you see it's 3 times. Some want to say that the reason for 3 times by Yom Kippur is connected. We talk in the Slachna in the Seinu, Chatesenu, Psheinu. So we talk about 3 things. What's the Lashon? Slachna, Rabbeinu, Chatesenu, Kapin, yeah. So it's 3 times. So we connect that. It's 3 times. The interesting thing is, we as Lubavitcher find it also in the Alter Rebbe Shulchan Aruch. Where do you find it in the Alter Rebbe Shulchan Aruch? The Negeya to Yom Kippur. The Negeya to Erev Yom Kippur, to go in the shade, you go to the mikveh Erev Yom Kippur. Besides what Lubavitch has admitted that they go 3 times to the mikveh Erev Yom Kippur. That's a different thing. But over here, he says over here, Yesh Raimim Shetam Tfilu Zu, Hu Mishum Tshuva, Keger HaMizgaya, U'Fi Zeh Yesh Litro Gimel Pamim. The Alter Rebbe says clear that the Indian of a ger has 3, but now the same thing also, if you take the Keilim and you want to bring the Keilim to change the Keilim, what's a ger? A ger changes from goy to yid, right? You want to change the Keilim from goy to yid. So therefore you have 3 times the Indian of Tevilas. Okay, so that's, they ask a kasha about B'chala, the Indian of Tevilas. They ask a kasha, the Rambam says that if someone tevils 2 times, it's meguna. Is that a nice thing? It's a Lashon Rambam by the dinim of Tumah B'tara over there. The Rambam says, Areza meguna. So it would mean to say that the Rambam holds the should only tevel 1 time.
The lady.
No, but a tummy. We're talking about something, a tummy that he has a tevel. So the Rambam says, Areza meguna. So the popular teretz on the Rambam is that when does the Rambam say Areza meguna? When he goes to the mikveh and he tagatayvus himself 1 time and he comes out of the mikveh, then he goes back into the mikveh to table another time. That's Areza meguna. But if someone is in the mikveh and he's in the middle of tabling, so then he could table. The Shalah brings that there's some people that table themselves 39 times. Connected the Hamatas Malchus. Huh? And some table themselves out of Shabbos 14 times. Connected the week that passed and the week that's coming. So I vishtim this all with the Rambam Areza meguna. Teretz says, when is Areza meguna? When you taivel yourself and you go out of the mikveh and then you go back into the mikveh. Why? Because there's a Kesef Mishnah in Hilchos Tumas Mes. There's a Kesef Mishnah that says that when did you become Torah? So the Kesef Mishnah says, so Pashi, you're going, he taivels himself. Is he under the water? Does he become Torah? Or does he become Torah when he comes out of the mikveh? So the Kesef Mishnah says that Balaisai, when he comes out of the water, then he is, so Mamela, how many times you table yourself doesn't matter because you're still in the mikveh. Once you left the mikveh and then you went back to the mikveh, Avdem Zakman Arezem Maguna. So that's the by Tevilas Keilim, we make a bracha. We make a bracha al Tevilas Keilim. So they ask a question: why by Hagolas Keilim don't we make a bracha? When you kasha, steht nicht in Eges, you should make a bracha. In every store where they have a mikveh, there's a sign hanging up on top over there with the bracha. Right? Nowhere does it say, even in the places that today became a minig, that they have in certain, before Pesach, they have in certain neighborhoods, they have Hagolas Keilim.
14-14.
Huh?
14-14.
Yeah, they have a big tub over there, and boiling water, and you can come over there and bring your kelim and table the kelim. Is there a sign there to make a bracha? No sign to make a bracha. So why by Tevilas Keilim we need a bracha, and by Hagolas Keilim we don't need a bracha? So they say the reason is because Tevilas Keilim is a mitzvah sesa. Hagolas Keilim is a mitzvah loisas that you should need treifus. So on a loisas we don't make a bracha. On an esa we make a bracha. Therefore we make the bracha by tiving the kelim because we're doing a mitzvah sesa. If we hold that Tevilas Keilim is a mitzvah sesa, that's a different shayla. I'm not going to get into that now. And by Hagolas Keilim, which is a loisasa, not to eat treifus, therefore you have to be magal the keli or kasher the keli. Therefore you don't make a bracha.
But when we kasher by 14-14, whatever they have, these for Pesach.
What?
For Pesach, this is for Pesach when they go around and they have these big tubs to
kasher
it. Right? There's no chiyuv. You don't have to use that keli. You don't.
No, the same thing is by kashering. The same thing is by taivos in the mikveh. Don't use that keli. Use paper dishes. If that was the reason.
But there's a mitzvah the kasher for kashrus. For Pesach, there's no mitzvah to kasher.
The same mitzvah. You don't have to kasher for Pesach also. Apidin, you could use your kelim from a whole year. We don't feel that way, but according to the Rebbe in Hilchos Pesach and Tafton Aleph, you could use the kelim from a whole year. The kelim is pogum. Means you have to make sure that the kelim is clean, that there's no chametz on it. Okay, so that was a little bit of Adam over here to the union of Tivin Keilim. Now, yesterday I said over a vote from the Rebbe Sicha that a teretz on the Ramban's kasha. But the Ramban asked the question: where do we find the inyan of Tevilas Keilim? We find it by Mechamas Midyan. So the Ramban is that before Mechamas Midyan, there was the Mechama with the Almighty, with Sichan and Eig, and over there it doesn't say any din of kasha in the Keilim. So I said the Rebbe says a teretz on it because the Mechama with Sichan and that was the Kanka land, which later on will become a part of Eretz Yisrael. When we talk about Eretz Yisrael, we talk about Mechama's Shivas Amamim, Hamayri, Apriza, Abusi, Agoshi, Achivi, Vayibusi, Agoshi, and there's also when Mashiach will come, they'll become Kadmoini, Kaini, Kadmoini, three parts. So that has to do with the Mechama with Sichan. So and Amun Amoy Tiru B'Sichan through because Sichan conquered them. So then later when we conquered Sichan, so we got the mighty. So the Rebbe says that b'shas they do the Mechama with Eretz Yisrael. The Gemara says they were mate parts of the Chazal. So over there you didn't have the kasher kelim because this was also for Bundle. But there's another interesting teretz. By the Mechama with a mighty, so the pasuk says over there, "Loisachaya kol neshama." That means to say that they wiped out entirely. They annihilated entirely the people. By Midian, they did a mistake. The mistake was, Hachayisim kol nekeva? How you talking? You let the nekevas live there? They only killed the member. They didn't kill the nekevas. If they wiped out all the goyim, if they wiped out all so there was no one left over there to become the owner of the Keilim. So the Keilim were hefka. If the din is if you're kind of in a hefka, you don't need tefillah. Only when you take from a goy, then you need tefillah. But from in a hefka, you don't need tefillah. Mashenkin over here that the women remained alive, so they yashim the Keilim from the men that were killed. But Mela said that's why you needed to have tefillah. So that's why, where is the din of the Ramban's Kasha? Where is the din of tefillah mentioned by the Muhammad with Midian and not by the Muhammad before? Okay. Now he says over here, we're up to Siv Beis. In Siv Beis, he says over here, Bein HaKeilim, Kivan ShaKeilim Tzrichon Tefillah. That we say that the Keilim need Tefillah is Davke B'Makom ShaKosher with Tevilas Noshim. It has to be a kosher woman's mikveh. The Say says a men's mikveh doesn't have. The din is that Moshe will say if you fill up a container with water, full container with water, and there's the aboim saw, there's 40 saw in it. So a man that wants to table can table in that
swimming pool.
But that's if you pull the water from the faucet. You opened up the faucet and you filled up the kegel with water. And neither cannot table there. And neither needs natural water. That's why. So what's natural water? Natural water is either a mikveh or a mayan. The din is a mikveh is a gathering of water that's in a container. And mayan is a well that comes from under the earth. So a kosher mikveh for Tevilas Noshim is either a mikveh that came with rainwater. The so what Moshe, the mikveh today, if it doesn't mean that she tables in the rainwater. She tables really in sink water or city water. But that rainwater is connected to that city water is connected to the rainwater. Either there's a bird on the side, or the way Lubavitch makes it, they make a mikveh from under, and they put holes in it, so maybe it's connected with the water that's on top of it. Therefore, he says, "L'chein tzrichun lizor." You have to be careful. Shelahatvil b'noros b'shor shehein gedolos mikshomim v'avsharas shrogim. During when the winter is over, so there was snow during the winter. We have now snow, and the snow melts. When it comes around Nisan time, the snow begins to melt. What happens with the snow that melts? It comes down the mountain and goes into the river. Now, a river or an or has a din of a mayim, has water coming from under. The din is that a mikveh can only be matar bashbaidim. Bashbaidim means that the water is standing. If there's, let's say, a leak in the mikveh, then the water becomes zoichlon. Or if the mikveh is overflowing, it becomes zoichlon. So that's a mayin could be matar b'zoichlon. Even if the water is flowing out over, it could be matar b'zoichlon. That a shayla now, when it comes, let's say Nisan time. That's the Gemara in Shabbos about becoming Nisan time. So then the rain is coming down from the mountains, coming into the river. So it's possible, it's called Yebu hanoitfim al hazoichum. Noitfim means the rainwater, which from that you can make a mikveh. But when could you make a mikveh from the rainwater if it's standing still? And the zoichum is the mayan, which even when it's zoichum, but the shayla is there may come a lot of water and more water than that's in the mayan. So the mayan will become bottle and lose its kayach of mayan. So therefore he says over here that you have to be careful. Not to table them like in rivers. At the time when they're increasing, when they're not in their natural sense, but there's a lot of rain and a lot of snow that melted it. This is Shliach Keilim Pesach, and that's the time when people are tabling Keilim because they buy new Keilim for Pesach and they go to the table. They don't have a mikveh to table, they go to the river or to the ocean. Sha'anara is Gedailis, v'tayvim shom Keilim, and v'eina nachan. It's not the right thing to do.
What about the ocean?
Huh?
The ocean?
The ocean is not. It doesn't have that problem.
It's a mikveh mayim to begin with.
Yeah, but it doesn't become bottle. It doesn't. It's in a nor, it becomes bottle.
The ocean, I think, has a din of a mayan.
The ocean is a mikveh mayim. You know, it's imshat ve'ela.
No, but it has a din of a mayan.
But this problem is only when it's raining.
Okay,
That's what.
we have
But it
to.
has a din
get ready
of a
for Mayan.
mayan.